Um, all right, so here we are on the current. Next is in the future. How can we be in the future and next already? The current live stream for the current the season, the Increased Understanding season, and I asked Brandon here to join me to talk about this season. And welcome, Brandon. And I'm grateful to I see that Brendan is writing lots in the chat even before we started. And I love what he's saying, that he spent the last season learning that he has a lot to grow in the last season. And Jamie has joined us too just now. Welcome, very welcome. So today we're talking all about increased understanding, which I think really just has basically in one way to think of it is there's two sides to this coin, which one of the sides being learning, like how to learn, right? So, whether you're learning, astrophysics or something, or you're learning about some, any topic, some cosmic topic, or just, learning, just understanding how your own brain works, right? It can also be understanding your own beliefs you have about the world and your assumptions you have about how people should treat you and things like that. It's kind of your framework you have in your head. That's one side of it. But the other side of the coin is using the same principles to understand other people. To be able to look at someone else and go, oh, I get why you tick the way you do. We can get along. So the understanding, has two sides, like growing your own understanding, but also understanding others. So to get started, I'm wondering, Brandon, off the top of your head, if you, you've been aware of these principles for a few years now and trying them out. I'm curious, as you've learned about increased understanding, as you've learned that we use the word schema, right? Which is a psychological term that describes sort of the network of ideas that's inside your head that describes your whole worldview and understanding. So as you've been playing around with the idea of schema or increased understanding for the last few years, what has it done for you?
Okay. Yeah. So I think I hadn't ever heard of schema. It was a new concept that I learned from talking to you. And so that, I think that right there increased my schema, right? And increased my understanding. But I think one thing, it's, I guess, a couple of things. So it's helped me to be more open and kind of more accepting of the fact that there are things that I don't understand. And as I've learned things, and realized that, maybe I had incorrect understanding or incorrect ideas of things, to be more forgiving of myself, I guess. To realize, at that point where I was at in my life, that's what I understood. Maybe that's what I needed at the time. And that was helpful for me, but it's also good to be willing to keep growing and to look back and go, I made progress, and that's good, and I'm glad for that. But not to beat up on yourself because, oh man, I wish I had understood that better. I wish I'd known that better, because that's just the place I was at. And really be okay with that person. So I think that's been really helpful, as I've kind of learned some new things, and learned ways that I maybe didn't, things that I maybe don't like about how I thought or how I acted. But I can be okay with that, because that's the place that I was.
That's a really big deal. And I like the way Jamie says it in the comment. She says, I love that. Forgiving yourself for what you didn't know and moving forward, being open to learning.
Yeah.
I know that for me, sometimes when I look back at how I acted and how I was when I knew less, right? Because so much of how our behavior is based on what we know and what we believe about the world and about ourselves. So when, as our belief system changes, even just believing that I'm enough, right? Like if I don't believe that I'm
Right.
enough, that's like kind of the most essential basic belief to believe in. If I don't believe that, then I'm going to engage in all kinds of behaviors that are not going to be good for me and others to try to like compensate for not feeling enough, right?
Right.
But so
Yeah.
so even just a basic belief like I am enough or I am lovable or people are good, right? These are very basic beliefs
Mm,
that we want to have in our schema, right? And so when we get those kinds of schema adjustments, then it's easy to look back at where you were before then and just be really frustrated with yourself.
yeah. Oh,
Like
yeah.
I did way like I look back when I was younger, and because of the way I saw the world, I'm not really happy with how I treated people. I'm not
Mhm.
really happy with how I
Right.
came off to people. I'm kind of embarrassed by who I used to be sometimes, you know.
Yeah.
But I learned that if I'm not able to forgive my past self, then I'm not able to forgive myself now. Like my future self, my
Mhm.
past, my present self are me. And so if I'm gonna like love myself, then I gotta learn how to forgive myself for where I used to be.
Mhm. Right. Yeah, I know we've talked before about, some things that I had held on to, um, that were good for me at the time. They were kind of defense mechanisms that helped. But now I don't need those because I have greater understanding. I've learned more about myself and about others, and I can let those things go. I know we talked about, being forgiving that forgiving and being grateful for for the way things were at that point, because that's what I
Mm.
needed. But then
Yeah,
being ready to move on. Yeah.
yeah. I really like you said like where that's what you needed at the time, right? That as we
Mhm.
at different phases of life, there can be the schema we have at that phase of life is the schema we just need to get through that phase of life.
Right. Yep.
That's great. Like it's like good job me, good job body, good job brain for having the right thing I needed at that time. And then at a different phase of life, I can let go of the stuff that wasn't that wasn't so
Yeah.
helpful.
Yep.
Um
Well,
yeah. Uh Something that I think that as another piece of all this is that as we forgive ourselves, right, we can practice being able to forgive others. And I think
mhm.
that sometimes it can be easy to look at someone who thinks differently than you do and be like, what is wrong with that person? And it can be
Yeah.
especially hard. Hello, Anne Louise. It can be especially hard when that person maybe thinks the way you used to think and you've changed.
Right. You can kind of see what looks like error, or
Hmm.
yeah, misunderstanding. Yeah.
And I think in those situations, maybe part of what happens is there's this defense mechanism inside ourselves that kicks in that says, I used to think that way. I've learned not to. I don't want to go back to that. So I need to like fight against anything that looks like that, which turns
Yeah.
into feeling like anger or disdain or something or enmity or whatever for anyone who reminds you of how you used to be. I
Right.
relate to
Mhm.
that.
Yeah. Yeah, I can see that. I've noticed that, especially, I don't know about necessarily enmity, but just thinking about, like, with my kids and how, I try to teach them things, and a lot of times, like, I know this from experience. I know that
Mm.
I've had these certain experiences that have helped me to learn that, this isn't helpful, or, doing this certain thing isn't good for you. And it's hard to not be frustrated with the fact that they still keep doing it, right?
Yeah.
That they just they don't believe you, or they don't get it. And so understanding, the idea of schema, it has helped me to be more understanding with them too, and just say, okay, based on the experiences they've had and where they're at in life, it just doesn't click for them. They just don't have that same concept. And so it's a little bit easier. It's still hard, but it's a
Yeah.
little bit easier to at least, not get frustrated with the fact that they're not doing things the way that you would think that they should, and you can kind of give them some grace there.
Yeah. That yeah, and it's important to let people have their own experience.
Mm-hmm.
Like we were saying, like my schema I used to have was good for me at the time. So if someone else, it's I think it's kind of rude. It can be kind of rude of me or thoughtless or something to be like, I want this person to start thinking this way now. Like it's like that.
Right.
My desire for them to do that is sort of it might be a desire to rob them of like their journey, their appropriate journey.
Right. Yeah. Yep. Yeah. You can't really force that understanding on people. They have to have the opportunity. And so maybe a better way to look at it is, is there something I can do to help them to learn at this time? What opportunities can I give them to learn and grow and
Yeah.
increase their own understanding instead of trying to just force an understanding on them?
I love, and I want to just put that on the wall or something. Like help others increase their own understanding and try to instead of trying to force understanding on people.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's important to try out what doesn't work. Sometimes that's like the whole point of the experience.
Right.
So it might be important for me to try seeing what life is like with false beliefs for a little while and see how they don't work so I can own that principle.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
so if I see someone else who's just kind of, it's really annoying to be around them because of because of the way that because the way they're because whatever someone's beliefs or understanding or schema are is going to come out in their actions and relationships. Like that's just how that works.
Right.
And so there
Mm-hmm.
can be some people that are really hard to be around because of that, right? If someone believes that like everyone owes them something, then they're going to act in an entitled way. Or if they believe that that they just should, that they can do whatever they want to people, then they're going to maybe treat me in a way I don't like being treated, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so they can be really hard to be around those people. But what if like the point of their life journey is to try that out and see it doesn't work?
Mm-hmm.
Then
Yeah.
then it's a matter of, instead of being like, well, I just need them to stop being this way, then maybe it's more a matter of, okay, how do I put up boundaries to protect myself while letting them have their experience?
Right. Yep. Yeah. Kind of funny, uh, I guess, idea, but it just reminded me of the story of Christmas Carol, right? Ebenezer
Mhm.
Scrooge doesn't see how much he's hurting other people until he has the opportunity to see it through the experiences that he has, and that totally changes his perspective.
Mhm.
I think I think that sometimes that's the way we learn best, is to have those experiences and then see the results and go, oh, that's definitely not what I want. And then you can
Yeah.
adjust that and make that change.
Yeah. Let's see here. In the comments, Jamie says, yes, for kids, their big concerns can feel small to us because we've grown past them ourselves. It's really hard to have patience with others' processes.
Yes.
That's huge. Like it's really important. Like if something feels big to someone, then it's big, period. Like it's weird to remember
Mhm.
that though, right? If it just because it doesn't feel big to me doesn't mean it's not big to them. Because if it's big to them, it's big to them, period.
Right.
So like
Yep.
being able to have that kind of empathy to be like, oh, okay, I understand that this is a big deal to you right now, even though it's not a big deal to me, and I'm gonna like meet you in that place.
Mhm.
That's hard to do, but really important.
Yeah, no, definitely.
And Brendan says that Christmas Carol is good, and I agree. The best one is the one with the Muppets.
Yes. Yeah, that's the best version.
Which is so bizarre. But how did we end up in the timeline where the best Christmas Carol movie is the Muppet one?
Right. I don't know, kiddo. You want to talk about what you learned about schema?
Not really.
No?
Hello. Okay.
Yeah. I tried to get him to join us. He's actually so my youngest, he has been learning a lot about schema in his school class, which I thought was really interesting because I haven't really ever heard anybody else talk about it.
So like
But
using the word schema.
yeah, actually talking about that. I think just recently they were talking about inferring. So what that means, using your schema to make, I guess, make perception or thoughts about other people, based on what you know and how that changes. Tyler, I'm talking on the phone right now. Thank you. So anyway, I thought that was really interesting that they were learning about that in class, and they've been focusing on that through the year. Just
That's
kind of
really
to help them, to help them, just the concept of continued learning and being okay with the fact that learning is a process. So I thought that was pretty cool. I was impressed. The teacher talked about that during their the open house that they did at the beginning of the year, and I was like, wow, I haven't ever heard anyone else talk about this.
That's so cool.
Yeah, it was really cool.
For me, it was just the only reason I ever encountered the word schema was because of a what do you call it? It was a when I had to take like a test to get certified as a teacher. And but since I didn't go the traditional route, traditional teacher route where you go to teacher school, I was going from industry to teaching kind of thing. So in order to become a certified teacher, I had to take this intense test, but I hadn't really taken any of the classes you usually do to prepare for it. So I just was studying on my own, just studying up all the teacher theory. And I have a friend who has a master's in education, and he's just kind of a teacher theory nerd. And so we spent a lot. I got like a study guide for the test, and we just went, and he just sat with me, and we went through each line of the study guide, and off the top of his head, he just told me what each thing was, right? And we got to Piaget, who's like a psychologist he was a psychologist whose research influenced education a lot, and he coined the word schema the way we use it.
Okay, interesting.
And that's the first time I heard it. And he was interesting. Piaget was interesting because he was a psychologist at the time when computers were becoming bigger and bigger. And he started looking at computers, and he said, hey, if I study computers and study how computers work, I wonder if, and then use that as a metaphor for the human brain, I wonder if it helped me see the human brain in a different way.
Oh,
and so he started kind of looking at the human brain as a computer, and then it helped him notice some things that psychologists hadn't noticed before about how humans process information. And he noticed this whole schema thing, which is, you just said, we have this, it's just the framework through which your unique framework through which you see the world. And in education, people talk about a lot, if you give a student a new piece of information, figure out how it fits into their schema. So like with an individual student, you can figure out what's in that student's schema, and then how do you connect it to that? So if you're trying to teach them a certain math concept, well, here's a good example for me. When I was, I remember being in math, and I really math was just boring. I wasn't that excited about it, right? But I really liked playing, tabletop role play games like Dungeons and Dragons kind of games as a teenager. And one day we were doing probability, and they started and the teacher started using the probability of the likelihood of dice rolling certain amounts. And all of a sudden I saw an application. I was like, wait, this will help me know how likely it is that the players are going to roll certain values in these certain scenarios, which helps me plan it better. And all of a sudden I was just completely engaged in a lesson, because I saw how it fit into something that was important to me, right? My schema understood a lot about role play games, and my schema, because schema is also values, right? My schema also was, these games are important and bring me pleasure, right? That was part of my schema. I had that belief about these games. So all of a sudden the math was bringing me pleasure because it was connected to something my brain said is pleasurable.
Right. That makes sense. That's really cool.
Yeah. And so, but so like for but then like more recently, I started looking to schema some more outside of educational context, more in just like the psychological context. And I discovered this is a couple years ago. I discovered that psychologists use the term in kind of a more broad sense than just that, which makes a lot of sense. Which psychologists also use the term schema to talk about what role you in your brain, the way your brain's wired, what role do all the different people and groups of people play in your life? So, for example, like a Black person who has grown up in a certain neighborhood who sees a police officer, because of the way that the people around them, like as they grew up, the people around them and the experiences they had may have led them to believe that police officers are dangerous. Like police equals dangerous. So when they see a police officer, they instantly start having this flight or fight response, right? Because that's the schema they've built. Whereas some other person who grew up in a different neighborhood, more like me or something, might see a police officer and think, oh, I feel safe because they're here keeping me safe.
Right. Yeah.
Or I might think, or if I've gotten a lot of speeding tickets, I might just see a police officer and instantly feel like stressed out about money, right? Because like police officers equal someone who gives me a ticket and I lose money. So based on our experiences, we build schema, which are really just beliefs around different people and things. And so like someone might hear the word mom and instantly think comfort. Someone else might hear the word mom and be like and feel frustration based on like their experience with their own mom.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, interesting. So are there ways that you can, I guess, adjust those? Does it have to do with changing your experiences or building different experiences?
So that is definitely a thing. So people they'll talk about somatic experiences in psychology, which is like a healing experience, like an experience that is so big and so formative that it replaces a negative belief with an unhelpful belief with a new helpful one, right? And so we can just have those experiences on a day-to-day basis, just by having different kinds of experiences with something, right? Like you have a really different. I mean, this is why police officers go into neighborhoods and like play with kids and stuff, and like do school activities. Like they're trying to help young people develop a different relationship with the police, particularly in neighborhoods where that's a problem, right?
Right.
But I think though that there's other ways we can, but that's kind of like incidental, right? like it's hard to be like I want like if you're self-aware enough to notice that you have a belief about something. Well, I mean, I guess you can control this. Like if you realize that you have a certain belief about someone in your life, like maybe your spouse, like you realize, oh, I have a belief about my spouse that's interfering with our relationship. Then you can say, if you're self-aware enough to identify what the belief is and where it came from, then you can say to yourself, what kind of experiences do I want to create with my spouse that are different?
Yeah.
And have those experiences together. And then those experiences become like a healing ritual or a ceremony.
Mm-hmm.
And that's well, yeah, you're gonna say something.
Oh, I was just saying that's really cool. It's a good observation.
And then the other thing you can do is rituals. Right? Like rituals are powerful. Like the human body responds really powerful to rituals. And so if you can kind of figure out for yourself, and the ritual can be as simple. I mean, playing video games with someone could become a ritual, right? If it's a somatic experience, if it's just the right experience helps you heal. You might also like invent some kind of ritual that feel like here's an example. I know a woman who.
Can I do the switch?
No, not right now.
Totally fine.
Go ahead.
I know a woman who her mom was abusive, and she got to a certain age where she realized that she had all this.
Right there.
Someone said, "Go to God." Yes. She realized that so this ties into the Lisa Kay saying, "Go to God." She realized that she had lots of feelings about her mom that were just not helping her, right? Like all these beliefs she had inside herself about her mom were keeping herself trapped. And she wanted to forgive her mom so that she didn't have that attachment anymore. right? Like she had,
Yeah.
and so she could move on, right? So she's trying to change her schema about her mom. And and so she prayed to know what to do, right? And she felt to do a ceremony for herself. And so what she did, she got a bunch of Alka-Seltzer tablets, and she took the tablet. She went to a bridge that was going over water, and she took each tablet one at a time. And she wrote on the tablets, on like each tablet, like something she was mad about her mom about. She like wrote really small on it, right? And then she took the tablet in her hand, held it above her head, and said the thing she was mad about, and threw it in the water and watched it dissolve.
Oh, that's okay.
And she did that one at a time. And when she was done, she just was like, I'm not mad at my mom anymore.
Interesting.
I can't remember if at the time her mom was still alive or not. I don't remember if her mom, I know her mom is dead now, but I can't remember if when she did that, if her mom was alive or not. I don't know, like after doing that, what her relationship with mom looked like. Sometimes we forgive people, but still have boundaries because that's just important sometimes. But because she forgave, she was free of that. And I think that circles back around to schema, to the empathy part of schema. Jesus on the cross says, "Forgive them, for they know not what they do." That's schema. He understands the schema. He's saying, I recognize that these people that are killing me, if these people that are crucifying me understood what they were doing, if you could think that they knew who I was, or if they weren't blind, if their outlook didn't make them blind, right? Or if they just really understood what they're doing, they wouldn't do it.
Right. Yeah.
And anyone that ever hurts you, if they had empathy for you, they wouldn't do it. Like the fact that they're hurting you is because they lack empathy. Otherwise,
right.
if they could be in your shoes and feel what it feels like to be hurt the way you're being hurt by them, they would stop. Right. And so the fact that they continue to hurt you shows they know not what they do. And so having that sort of appreciation of people's schema, having that sort of I've found can be a really powerful way to help me forgive in any circumstance.
Yeah, that's really cool. Yeah, I think just understanding that people are in different places and they're in different experiences and different journeys. Can really help you feel that. But forgive them for the mistakes they make. Forgive them for how their choices impact you in potentially negative ways. And recognize maybe that your choices might be affecting other people, and kind of being more aware of that too.
Yeah, that part's really important. I've been recently listening to lots of near-death experiences. That's been sort of like a spiritual pursuit of mine of late. As I drive places or as I exercise or just as I do chores or whatever, I just play YouTube videos that are there's so many of them. YouTube videos that are and by the way, Lisa and Dominic and Brendan, I appreciate all your comments here very much. As I play all these near-death experiences, there's like certain things that all near-death experience, that most near, but not all, many near-death experiences have in common. There's actually like near-death experience like clubs and support groups where people that have had, people that have died and come back to life get together to talk about it, and there's a whole like culture and field and that has evolved around it and terminology around it, because there's certain things that near-death experiences tend to have in common, and so people have like a common language and talk about it. And
I didn't realize there were that many of them.
Yeah, no, it's crazy how many there are. Like, there's so many. Like, the more I get, I keep being surprised at how many people have had these experiences. One experience listened to, this woman woke up in the hospital, and a chaplain came in, and she told the chaplain, she's like, I was just dead, and now I'm back, and I talked to God, and this happened. And she's telling the chaplain about it, and the chaplain said, and she said, "Do you think I'm crazy?" And the chaplain said, "I don't think you're crazy. This happens all the time in this hospital."
Well,
Brendan says thousands, and that adds up. But one of the things near-death experiences that happens over and over and over again that people experience is what they call it the life review. And people say like your life flashes before your eyes.
mm-hmm.
And in the life review, people report that they report that no one judges them. Like no one I've never heard a single near-death experience. I haven't listened to all these, and I've heard people that have listened to more, that have studied this more than me, and they'll affirm no one's ever heard of a near-death experience where someone comes to you and judges you. It just never happens. It does not happen. What does happen is people see their own lives and judge themselves.
Okay. That makes a lot more sense.
And so people will see their whole lives play out, but when they see it from the space they're at, some of them, if they're sort of like still really connected to their kind of like they still feel very mortal, right? Because some people in death experiences seem to kind of be holding on to their mortality, and some seem to let it go real fast while they're there, which is interesting.
Yeah.
So if they're holding on to their mortal framework, then maybe they might report they feel guilt. But it seems like most of them, they see their whole life and it's kind of like objective. They're just like, oh, I did good there, I didn't there. I'm glad there, I'm not happy about that. But they don't feel shame. And they don't really feel a lot of guilt either. They just kind of like, in almost a scientific or logical way, go, oh, I get what happened here. And they feel a lot of empathy and a lot of love, and they feel a lot of patience for themselves. And if they do start to be like hard on themselves about it, some presence usually comes to them that they would describe as God or an angel. And that presence says, helps them, be patient with themselves.
Interesting.
And they tend to walk away being like, so many of them, they talk about it like they don't walk away with it feeling like life was a test. They walk away with it feeling like life was the experience they needed. Their life at that point. But many of them do feel like they want to do more with their lives afterwards. And many of them report that when they have their life review, they see all these events from their own experience, but then simultaneously they see the exact same events from the standpoint of whoever was involved in the experience. So if they treat someone well, they simultaneously remember that, but they also simultaneously experience it from the point of view of the person who they treated well. And if they do the opposite, it's the same thing. And so they feel great empathy for, they get like a strong sense of how their actions affect other people, at least a greater empathy. And they come away from it wanting to do more good in the world and harm people less.
Interesting. Okay. Yeah, I was wondering how that would affect, how you would act after that, or what your life would be like. Being able to see that first, like what would you do differently?
Yeah.
That's really cool. That definitely would be a schema shock.
Well, and for me, in like a biblical sense, and I see there's some comments on here I want to circle back to. I want to finish this topic though. On a biblical sense, this ties into three ideas for me. One, I don't know if this is in like a Christian context. I don't know about other religions, but in a Christian context, one of the concepts that's talked about is like the sin shouted from the rooftops, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think the sin shouted from the rooftops is something that happens as we go from this state to our eternal state, but it's not a bad thing. Like you hear the sins are shouted from the rooftops and you think, oh no, like I better not sin because I don't want people to know about it,
Yeah, everybody's gonna hear what I did. And
but instead it's like this. It's like everyone knows what everyone else did, and everyone experiences everyone's experience from everyone's perspective, right? So I know everything you did from your point of view and the point of view of everyone you affected, and you know everything I did, and in the way we affect each other, we experience it from both viewpoints. Like I know what it's like to hurt you because I did that. But I also know what it's like to be you and be hurt by you. And you know what it's like to be me and hurt you, and you understand why I did it because you understand the scheme I was in at the moment, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And then and the book of Revelation says that the world will be a sea of glass. And when we think of that, it's a sea of glass because everything's so clear, everything's transparent. We see everything. We don't have secrets from each other anymore. Everything's out, and we're all vulnerable, and we're all okay with it. and we're all forgiven because we all forgive each other.
Right. Yeah. And you wonder how much of that we understood before deciding to do this, come on this journey, right? If we realize like, hey, we're gonna hurt each other, right? There's gonna be times where we're not going to treat each other kindly, and it's gonna hurt, and it's not gonna be fun. But we also realize that that was how we were gonna learn to not hurt each other because we would have those experiences.
Yeah.
So kind of interesting to know, how much of that did we understand before coming to this life, and then when we do finally see how that all played out.
Yeah. It's my personal belief that we understood it perfectly, and that's why we were okay with coming.
Yeah, makes sense.
Like that was like the insurance plan that made us go, okay, it's going to be okay because this is going to fix all the problems we create with each other.
Right. We're all going to get it. We're all going to understand, and at the end of this, we'll all be able to appreciate the experience together.
Yeah. And I think when it comes down, when you put all this together, this helped for me personally, my personal understanding of things. I know I see that like Kiki said in the chat, she's like, or he or she, I don't know. They say like, I stopped believing in God. And when we have this conversation now, but there's other people in the chat who've been like, praise God as we've said things. And I think that it's really, I hope that we can have a space together. We can respect each other's schema in that way. Right. Like, but so like my schema that I've developed over the last 7 years or so around the idea of Jesus and Christ, which is changed from where I used to be. And I hope people will be understanding of this if it sounds different or whatever. But my understanding of it is that because I used to see it like this, like God has a bunch of rules, and if I break God's rules, then I'm in trouble. But Jesus, in some mysterious way that no one understands, suffered, and because Jesus suffered, he paid the price. So it's okay that I break rules because someone has to be punished for the rule breaking. So Jesus said, "I'll be punished instead of them." Right. So that's like the way I used to see it. But as I've gotten the last 7 years, I've had through many spiritual experiences I've begun to see it differently. And part of it to see it differently is because the approach I just said is based on the punitive model. So like in society, we have one of the, there's basically like, there's many different schemas, but two schemas you can have around justice is punitive justice and restorative justice. And punitive justice says that we have laws, and if someone breaks them, they get the punishment. So when a law is broken, you instantly turn around and you say, all right, who broke the law? What's the punishment in the rules? What does our rule book say the punishment is? What does our law book say the punishment is? And then who, and then you just say who did it, what's the punishment, and then you give it to them. Right. like that's the system. And
it's very black and white.
Yeah, it's very black and white, and it's better than chaos. Like right. I'd rather live in that system than a system where everyone just does whatever the heck they feel like all the time. I don't want to live in the purge, right? That said, the punitive system is not the only system. There are many societies. In fact, the older societies, the older way, perhaps you could say like the way of, of the pre-Moses patriarchs, right? The way of like Abraham and Isaac and Jacob and Adam and Eve and these folk and Enoch. The way that tribal societies tend to use is a restorative system. A restorative system says it instead of saying who do we punish, instead of saying who's to blame, the restorative system says how do we make this better. And when someone has gotten hurt, the restorative system says, oh, what happened here? Something happened. Who was harmed by this? Like, and not just like, and like everyone, like, so, like who, there was someone, if someone punches someone, right? It's like, okay, the person who got punched got harmed. In what way were they harmed? The person who did the punching was harmed in somehow by this. How were they harmed? right? Like they in some way, if someone goes and punches someone else, they go away from that situation feeling less good inside than they came into it with. They've been harmed, right? Like I'm not saying they're not responsible. Accountability is still real. In fact, when I get to the end of this example, you'll see accountability is actually stronger in this scenario. But anyone that saw it happen was harmed. Anyone who loves either person was harmed, like all their friends and family, right? Like lots of people have been harmed by the situation. And so restorative justice says, okay, what happened? Who was harmed? In what ways were they harmed? And how do we make it better? And restorative systems ask everyone involved, because punitive systems give power to like one person. Like you turn to the judge or the king or whatever and say, make this, but give the punishment to make this. We need you to give justice by giving the punishment. And that judge or that king or that whoever that law person has all the power. And so it's not very democratic. It can really fuel the ego of one person, and it doesn't empower a group of people. Whereas restorative justice, you go to all the people involved, it takes longer and it's harder. And you get all these people together and you say, okay, how are all of us harmed and what are all of us going to do to make the situation better?
Right.
And it's the default justice system of most tribes, because tribes are small, right? They're like 150 people. And so they can do this more easily. Whereas big societies default to punitive justice, because when you have 1 million people trying to get along, it's a lot harder to do, right? And so I don't fault like the U.S. government for using a punitive system. All I'm saying is that when it comes to like our families or like our workplaces that are small, or they're more like our smaller tribes, we can choose restorative. And it's my belief that to God, like from God's perspective, because God has such a big brain, from God's perspective, we're a small group, right? Like the whole planet, because God notices when the sparrow falls, right? Like to God, God knows each of us intimately. So God can have a restorative system with 1 million people together.
Right. Yeah. And that way you grow from that experience versus just, with punitive, it's just like, well, just take care of the one bad thing that happened, instead of, okay, how do we all learn and grow and move forward and get better from this?
Yeah. And my belief is that this is the real role that Jesus as a savior plays in it. I think that I don't feel like God is so weak that it's hard for God to forgive us. I don't feel that God's so petty that God needs someone to get punished for things.
Right.
Like I don't believe those things. My belief is that God can just forgive us whenever God feels like it, right? Like if I'm doing bad stuff and I start doing good stuff, God can just forgive me and the story's over. God doesn't need to punish Jesus to forgive me. I don't believe that's true.
Yeah.
But what is true is that I need Jesus' help to forgive you. You need Jesus' help to forgive me. And so, if Jesus, through his suffering, I believe his suffering was the life review of the universal life review of the near-death experience. When people have that that life review, the near-death experience, they're tapping into what Jesus is suffering. The idea being that Jesus suffered or experienced all of our experiences and all the ways that our actions affect each other from everyone's perspective.
Yeah.
And then when we have near-death experiences, or we piggyback on what he did. And when I pray and ask for help to forgive someone, I piggyback on that. And in some subconscious way or maybe conscious way, the empathy Jesus gained during his suffering is transferred into my body. And then I'm able to like have empathy. I'm able to, in some like conscious or subconscious way, I'm able to experience what it's like to be you when you harmed me. And then I'm able to forgive you. I'm able to have empathy. It changes my schema. And then I understand a little better why Isaiah can say, by his knowledge, my righteous servant justifieth many. Because the knowledge is empathy.
Right. Oh, that's interesting.
And then if I feel bad about something I did and I do my best to make it better, but I just can't quite forgive myself and I ask to be forgiven, then, what I really need to be forgiven by isn't God so much. I mean, it is God, but but it's more like the people I hurt. That's who really I need to be forgiven by, right? And
Right.
they might not be ready to forgive me right now, which is fair because I might have really hurt them a little bad. But but eventually they will, because eventually at some point between now and eternity, we all piggyback on Christ's life review, right? At some point we do that. And so we all will forgive each other eventually when we're ready to piggyback on that.
Yeah.
And so there is some point at the future, some point between now and eternity where that person will forgive me. And through my prayer for forgiveness, my ask forgiveness, I can emotionally experience that as if it were the present moment.
Yeah. That's really cool. That's a cool concept. And I think that makes a lot of sense too. Like you said, God doesn't need to punish us. That's not really, I can't imagine that that's what he wants is his role, right? That's the way he wants, I think that it's more God wants to help us grow and to help us, like we were talking about, move on from the experiences that we have that maybe hurt us or other people, and to be able to continue to progress, to move forward. And he's there to facilitate that, not to hold us back.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I don't blame anyone for, like we've had, a variety of in our chat comments today. I think everyone left except I think a lot of people were here and left, so they're not here anymore. But in our chat, in the chat today, we've had people, that are saying they're like, "Wow, God's the best," and people are like, "I don't believe in God." And I can understand both perspectives really easily because if I've had that experience of piggybacking on Jesus's forgiveness, either to be forgiven or forgive someone else, it's just such a miracle. It's easy to be like, wow, God, it's just amazing. God can do this. But at the same time, if my schema is, then my schema has changed because of what I've experienced. But if I've had other experiences, maybe from people that tell me that God's punitive or whatever other experiences, then my schema, it's easy to make a different schema, which is like, how could God be? Right. I can't fathom. I just can't handle believing this person makes me feel this bad, or I can't handle living in a world where God would let this or that happen. Right.
Right. Yep. Yeah. Yep. That's true. Yeah. I think another thing that, I was just thinking about with understanding this is it can help us with communicating with other people. So instead of communicating with emotions and getting frustrated when we're not on the same page, or when we disagree, we can focus on, well, here's what I understand, here's the way I see things, and share it from that perspective. And then if you basically kind of compare notes and say, okay, well, this is what I see, this is what I've experienced, this is how I understand it, and the other person can share the same thing, and then you can kind of see, okay, well, here's where we differ, and then decide what to do from there, instead of just getting angry with each other if you're on different wavelengths or different levels.
I love that.
That can be really helpful. Yeah.
Because we're angry at each other because I want something, I want a certain thing, and you want a certain thing, and right now it looks like the things we want aren't compatible. And so we're angry. But a lot of times, if we can take a few steps back to like, wait, what is it that I think I want right now? Why do I want that? Why do I want that? Why do I want that? And go back 5 or 7 steps of why. And then you start getting back to then you eventually start plugging back into your belief systems and what you believe you need for yourself in order to be okay. And if both parties can do that, like you're saying, then you can get to more fundamental needs of your belief systems, and either and figure out, and from that place of understanding, you can find a compromise a lot better. And you might discover that it's time to change your belief system a little. It might, it's time to tweak your schema.
Yeah. Yeah, you might see. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense the way you see that, or the reasoning behind why you want to do something a certain way, or why you feel like this is important. And maybe it's something that you missed or just hadn't learned or hadn't understood. So I think that can help us a lot with working through disagreements, instead of just getting angry and deciding that we just can't get along, because that seems like what happens a lot.
Well, one of the things that coming up a lot in this conversation is the connection between like our beliefs or schema and our emotions.
Mm-hmm.
And if you look at the 13 seasons diagram, like the Metatron cube diagram that's on the website.
Yeah.
Knowledge, understanding, and emotions are opposite each other on the chart. And my experience has been on that chart, on the diagram, anything that's opposite each other are like complementary siblings. Just kind of how like on the color wheel, how the colors opposite each other like go together, or the cuts opposites are opposites, but also go together well. Like red and green look good together, but they're opposite colors, right? So anything that's opposite on that chart goes together in a special way, but it's kind of opposed, but like in a way that it's like a yin and yang. Like they're two sides of something, and they go together. And so emotion and knowledge, or emotion and schema, go together, and we can see this, and like and like in our discussion, this has been popping up for me over and over again today. That like one example is our emotions tell our body which schema, when to make a schema. So if you have an experience and you have big emotions around the experience, your body says, wow, that experience was a big deal. We got to form a belief around that.
Right. That makes sense.
And then your body uses the emotions to both give fuel to the belief, to help you feel motivated to follow it in the future. And to like kind of seal it up. The emotions become almost like the wrapping paper that holds it all together.
Right.
Keeps it strong in you. And so when the day comes that it's time to change that belief or let go of it, you won't be able to do so unless you also address the emotions that are tied up with it.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
And like we're using them. Yeah, go on. Sorry.
No, I was gonna say, I think because that's what tells your body, here's how to process this, whether that's a good or bad experience, and how to frame that up for how you should act in the future.
Yeah, but I bet we could just name a bunch of beliefs right now and just easily see the emotion that goes with it. Like the police are bad, right? Fear is going with that emotion. Right?
Yeah.
I'm not enough. Shame is attached to that emotion. I mean, it's attached to that belief. We could go through like someone might have the belief like math hurts me. like there's a lot of young people in our country that don't like math. And they have a strong aversion. They believe that like their belief system is that like the second math is going to make their life miserable, right? And there's probably like feelings of frustration associated. Like at some point in their life, they got stuck with math, couldn't figure their way around it, and just started feeling frustration. They probably feel some shame, some frustration, some things like that around math.
The first time you get an F on a math test. And
yes.
Right.
Yeah. And they're like, I just got to avoid the math because it's bad news. Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, like, and then girls tend to do better at math when they're younger, studies have shown. But when they get to a certain age, they start doing worse at math. And no one, I don't know if we know exactly why that is, but the best guess that I've heard is that when they're younger, doing math is something they're encouraged about. Like people are like, oh, you're smart, good job. But when they get older, traditionally in our society, there's this societal view that the kinds of roles women should play in our society don't require advanced math. And so when you get to a certain level, you stop feeling that reward from adults around you for being good at math. And instead adults start rewarding you for like looking good, for example. And so
Right.
like there might be an emotion there of like when you're younger, you form this belief around math as a girl that might, associate with like sense of like pride or confidence or like acceptance, right? And then as you get older, you sort of subconsciously notice that you get those same feelings around different activities, and so you start gravitating to where you want it. So you start gravitating that way, and then your belief system changes because your belief system is like, I need acceptance. So you're like, and then your schema attaches to that belief. These are the things that get me acceptance, and you go after those things.
Right. Yeah. And you feel like anything else would be unnecessary or unhelpful for you. And so you start to remove those or feel like they're not necessary.
Yeah. In fact, you might even get the sense that like, oh, if I come off as too smart as a girl, the boys find that threatening, and I want the boys to like me. Right?
Right.
Like,
yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's really interesting. It is interesting how much our schema changes over time. And just little things. It's not necessarily just big events or big experiences. Just little things can shift it over time.
Yeah.
Just based on how everything else around us responds to things that we do or things that we, the way we act.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think it's just my thinking is, I'm not sure, but I think probably it's not the whether a certain schema gets formed or not has very little to do with the actual event itself and the emotion you feel, but it's the strength of the emotion that goes with it.
Mm-hmm.
So like the same two people have the exact same event, and one person feels strong emotions around, the other doesn't, and they're gonna and the event's gonna maybe cause one to develop a certain scheme and the other not to.
Right.
I think it can also be, but there can also be a trickle effect. Like you could have one experience that has the emotional value of 100. That's enough to do it. Or you could have 100 tiny experiences over a few months that all have emotional value of 1, but it's still added up to 100. And so you end up with the same schema.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yep. Yeah, that makes sense. I think about, our dog, training her, and we were talking to our kids the other day. You can't tell her no all the time. I mean, yeah, there are things that she shouldn't be doing, but if you tell her no about everything she does, then she's going to feel like she can't do anything. And she's have to be really careful. It's all those little things add up to making her feel like she's not wanted around. And so I mean, it's a really simple example, but I can see how those kinds of experiences would affect human beings even more. Being told, oh, don't, you can't talk right now, or it's not your turn, or you didn't do very well on that, or you could do better. If you hear that enough times, you start to feel like I am the person don't have value versus oh, I made a mistake, or I could fix something. That could be really big.
And what you're saying about the dog reminds me that like we can learn a lot about schema from looking at animal training. Because I mean, animal training is just schema, right? Like the dogs associate, like Pavlov's dogs, right? Like the dogs, you ring the bell when you give them food and they salivate. And eventually you take the food away, ring the bell, and they salivate, right? Like their schema is like their programming. Schema is just program, right? It's computer language, right? Their schema is somehow forming a belief that's connecting bells to salivation, right?
Right. Yeah.
And we're the same way, right? We're not very different. Like the only difference is our brains can create more complex stories.
Yeah. Yep.
So we're doing the exact same thing, but with more complex stories, which is good and bad. Disadvantages.
Right. Yeah, you can make a lot stronger beliefs, I guess, off of simple experiences. So you get told no enough times, or you get told you did a bad job enough times, and you start to believe that is who you are. And that really can really affect you strongly.
When we have such powerful imaginations, like that's one of the big things differentiating humans and other animals, it seems, is that humans have we tell more complex stories to ourselves, and with that is like really advanced imagination, and which means we can imagine all sorts of narratives that might not be true, and then form all sorts of beliefs around them, right?
Yep. Yeah. Yep. Interesting.
But yeah, we've been going for an hour now. Do you have any final thoughts?
I don't know. I think it's been a good conversation. It's good to kind of, review this and just remember, again, I just going back to, I think just having grace for myself and for other people, recognizing that the experiences that I've had that have come from myself or from others affecting me, they have an impact on who I am today, and just recognizing that's just how it is. It's not necessarily good or bad. It's just that's how I am, and doesn't mean that I can't learn and keep growing, and to be willing to do that. But just have grace with myself for where I'm at, where I've been, and look forward to growing more, and then offering that to other people around me as well.
Just a lot of grace to give, right? Grace to ourselves, to everyone. There's so much grace to give.
Yep.
I'm really grateful that it's just really freeing, right? It's really freeing to give grace to everyone and to all these people.
Yeah. Yep.
Well, thank you for your time, Brandon. This was great.
You too. Yeah. Thanks for talking. Thanks for inviting me.
All right. Well, good luck increasing your understanding, and great season. We'll do this again in 4 weeks with the next thing.
That sounds good. Thanks, Josh.
Bye.
Bye.
See it.
I don't know how to end it. Hey, everyone. I'm still here because I don't know how to end this thing.
Hi.
There's Will.
I wasn't here, so I'm sad.
There's how we end it.
Yay.